Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to In the Dark, or welcome to In the Dark, depending whether you've been here or not before. My podcast has been just blowing up on Spotify. I don't know what's going on because I haven't really been very good about doing, consistent podcasts, but every day I wake up, there's 100 new people that have listened to it. And it's not quite the same on YouTube. YouTube is a lot different. It's very slow moving on YouTube, but there again, I don't advertise anything. I don't really talk about it much, and I don't do episodes as consistently as I should. And it just it's not as, it just doesn't move along as well on YouTube. I mean, it's still up there, and you get listeners and followers and, things like that, but it just isn't as prevalent on YouTube. So what I'm going to ask you guys, if you could, or if you would all please go on to YouTube, since I have so many followers on here and subscribers and people that listen, if you would please just take a moment and go onto YouTube and find the channel on there. Look up In the Dark, All Things Supernatural, and type in my name, Tracy Bush. My name is spelled with an I-E, and it should pop up. And if you would subscribe, and, if you listen to any videos on there, obviously like them, and share them with people on YouTube, because it would really help a lot. It really does. It would help me grow it on YouTube more, and that's really, I would like to do that. YouTube is much of a pain in the butt as, people think it is. It's a really good tool, and it helps a lot when you're growing things on there. But my channel on Spotify is so much different. It's so much bigger and grows so much more, and it's just, it's just a constant flow of new followers and, just people that are listening. And so it's really awesome, and I love it. But I wasn't happy that Anchor was bought out by Spotify, because I really loved the way Anchor had done things. They made it so easy to podcast, and the tools that they had on there, it was incredible, and it was free. There was just so many editing tools, and you could do everything right from Anchor, and I miss it so much. And Spotify bought it out, and I've been very disgruntled about it, so I kind of went on strike a little bit with podcasting. I just got, I don't think I was really mentally ready to start trying to learn and figure out a whole other way of doing it, but I'm getting there. It's taking me some time, and the thing I'm going to miss about it the most are the musical intros and things like that. But, I mean, what do you do? I'll figure it out somehow. So, but the steady stream of people coming onto Spotify is making me want to do the podcasting again more. So that's been great. It's given me more incentive to get in here. Guys, I'm so busy with work. I have such a busy family life. It is insane how busy my life is. There is just not enough hours in the day to get done all the things I have to do. I am constantly dealing with grandkids, which I absolutely love, but they have gotten so much more demanding. The older they get, they want to be with me so much. And I absolutely love them. And now I have this cute baby in my house, because my son had moved back with me, my oldest child, and he brought his baby, and this baby is so freaking cute and beautiful and just so special. His eyes, he has got the most beautiful gray eyes, and they're so expressive, and he's so calm and so sweet and so cute. And it's just like looking at my oldest son again. He is like a replica of him, and it's just the cutest thing in the world I've ever dealt with. So I love all of my grandkids the same. I do not play favorites at all. They are all like the apples of my eye. I don't care if I don't see some as much. I just adore all of them. I have 6 of them now. And, just that and my plants. I've got this greenhouse of plants, And I am like this plant crazed lunatic that, I mean, I have trees in my house now, and they're literally past the ceiling. I was joking with my one son because I have a lemon tree that's literally up to the ceiling in the living room, and I said I don't even need a Christmas tree anymore. I can just put lights on it. But I don't know how well the lemon tree would fare with that. But and then I've got all these animals outside, these nature animals that I take care of, and I have a business and a podcast, and I'm trying to get the illustrations. I want to get those done for the one children's book for the Christmas story that I've been working on. And there again, I'm not marketing my books, which I should be. I'm just kind of letting things, there's just a lot, like there's a lot going on. There's a lot of people to take care of. Everybody constantly needs me. Like my phone is like Grand Central Station. I have never seen a person that I feel so reclusive, and yet my phone just blows up constantly. And I'm like, how do I have this much, like, activity on my phone? And I don't know how it happens to me, but it does. Between friends and family, and especially my children, it is insane. Even my grandchildren now have gotten to the age where I bought like a bunch of them phones, and so they text me all the time, and so it's really cute. But I just have a really busy life, and that's no excuse, because I know that you need me. You love the entertainment of this. I know that some of you need it. You need the messages about the Lord. You just need to connect, and I do apologize. I really do, and I am going to try to get better at this at some point. I don't know when. I'm trying to find the time, but I'm going to try to do it. I mean, it's just crazy. So, but I'm getting there. I'm getting there. But all this flow coming into Spotify, every few hours I get on there and there's like 50 more people, and I'm just like, wow, this is crazy. I mean, it's really amazing. So Halloween was yesterday, and the reason I have this screensaver up is because I wanted to do this last night. And what happened was, I have another podcast I do, and I don't want you guys to know about this one. Really, I want to kind of keep this separate, but it's one that the Lord has been on me and on me and on me about doing a podcast for Him, just for Him, not about really all the spooky things. So it's gonna kind of be similar to this one, and there might be some of the same stories on there, but I'm gonna try to really dedicate something to the Lord and our walk with the Lord, and how like His expectations of us. And He does have expectations of us, whether people want to admit that or not. And so I really, this is something that He's wanted me to start. And so I'm going to do this. So I started my first one yesterday, and that took the entire day, believe it or not. Like I know they seem so simple. Seems like, you hear a podcast, it's like an hour of time. You have no idea, what goes into the prep and the editing, and just everything that there is involved in it, the breaks and they're finding pictures, and it's everything. It takes hours, It seems like as I've gotten older, the days are shorter. Like it's like it's like you can't get as much done as you used to. I don't know what's happening with that, but that's how I feel. And I don't know if it's just an age thing, or if something weird is going on in the matrix there. So anyway, that's what I've been kind of up to, aside from, I'm trying to close down for the season soon for my ice cream business, and, trying to get these illustrations done, and just everything. Like, there's just so much going on. Then I have, I'm going to start another job for the winter, and, I'm dealing with the house stuff, with, like, the breakup with Matt and I, which has been really weird, because I was so angry for so long, and so just wanting nothing to do with them. And then all of a sudden, like, all this love and forgiveness came flooding back, and I'm like, oh no, what am I going to do with this? And so I've really been missing him, and that's been really hard. It's been really tugging on my heartstrings a lot, but I'm just leaving it in the Lord's hands. So I don't know, what could happen or what's going to happen, but I'm just, just living life and trying to do the best I can, and just praying and leaving things up to the Lord, and He'll decide what He wants, to have happen in my life. So and anything that he wants, I'm okay with it. So I'm okay. So today's episode, this is going to be kind of awful. Something I wanted to tell. I've actually been wanting to do this one story, but I've been hesitating because it's actually sexual in nature, and it's really something that just... So I got this story sent to me by somebody, and I am like, I really can relate to this story because something similar, I don't know if it's similar, but something, happened to me like this, and I was like, wow, it's really wild. So I'm going to go ahead and read you the story, and I want you to brace yourself, because if you are somebody that is a devout Christian, this might be really disturbing to you. And if you are somebody that you just don't, if you're young, or I don't know who listens to this, but I'm just letting you know that this is something it's very sexual in nature, and I just want you to prepare yourself, and I don't want you to get offended, because, and I'll kind of explain after the story why this meant something to me, why I wanted to read this to you. So, well, here we go. Here we go with much hesitation. My name is Lena. I'm a graphic designer, and I live in the city. I want to tell you something I feel happened to me. Even though it was a dream, it was extremely real, and there was evidence of it actually being reality. It was a quiet evening in the city, which was rare. I had spent the last 10 hours on a deadline, so the silence was a physical relief. I needed a night to relax. I had gone to bed. The weight of my exhaustion put me to sleep almost before my head hit the pillow. The transition wasn't gradual. I feel like I'm getting a lisp there. That was weird. Okay, anyway, the transition wasn't gradual. There was no fuzzy edge between waking and sleeping. One moment I was in the dark of my bedroom, the next I was in the dark of the dream. But it didn't feel like a dream. It felt hyper real. The air in my room was the same cool, peaceful air. The feel of the bed, being under my covers, all nestled, was great. I was laying on my back. Then I felt the weight. It was a pressure on the other side of the bed. The springs squeaked softly. My dream state was accepting without question, but the other part of me was realizing it was off. There was a figure lying beside me. I felt it was male, but the details were obscured by the deep shadows of the room, shadows that seemed thicker than normal. I whispered a hello quietly. A low sound answered, not a word, but a vibration that seemed to originate in the center of my chest. It was a hum, like a pure dark resonance, a sound that felt, the best word I can describe it is ancient. I don't know any other word. A hand somehow felt like it settled on my hip. I felt like I started to panic. The touch did not feel human. The palm was broad, the fingers long, but the skin was smooth in a way that wasn't right. It was like polished stone or very fine leather, and it was cool to the touch, a coolness that didn't warm with contact. And yet the weight of it, the pressure, was utterly real. I could feel the specific points where each fingertip pressed into my skin through my nightgown. This is a dream, I kept thinking, even as a thrill. Equal parts terror and electrical arousal shot through me. The hand slid up my side over my rib cage, and I could feel every millimeter of it. The coolness of the touch gave me goosebumps all over. I felt chill but still warm at the same time. It leaned over me, but I still couldn't see its face clearly. It was a sculpture of shadow, but I could feel its breath on my neck. It didn't smell bad, more like the scent of ozone after a lightning strike. Extinguished candles and cold stone or moss you can smell when you're out by a stream. Its mouth found the sensitive spot where my neck met my shoulder. There were no lips, just that cool, smooth pressure. Then a sharpness. Not the pain of a bite, but a piercing sensation of a needle. Like it, but No blood. I don't know why or what it was from, but it was followed by a warmth that spread through my veins almost. Almost seemed like a vampire. An extreme pleasure came over me from the point of contact, making my limbs feel weightless. I felt weak. I asked, "Who are you?" in my mind, but no response. It didn't speak. It communicated through touch alone. My nightgown was gone. I didn't remember it being removed. The cool air of the room and the cooler presence of it was directly on me. The weight of it suddenly was between my legs, and the sensation was so profoundly real my logic went out the door. This was happening. The pressure was immense. It felt like I was being filled and stretched beyond what should be possible. A sensation on the edge of pain, but transforming into a pleasure so intense it was terrifying. I could feel everything, the specific texture of its skin against me, the movements, the muscles in its back, and the shoulders were hard as iron. The whole act was there, the feelings and sensations and sounds of breathing and such. I was entirely present and a willing participant in a dream that felt as real as my waking life. It felt entirely wrong, yet so real, and the ecstasy was nothing I had ever felt. It lowered its head, and for the first time I saw its eyes. They were not red or glowing. They were the color of polished jet, deep and endless, and in them I saw no emotion, only a bottomless ancient hunger. That's freaky. And my own reflection, twisted and ecstatic. The climax that broke over me, not to get too graphic, but it cannot be helped, was not a release, was an annihilation. It was a silent scream that tore through me, a wave of pleasure so violent it felt like my soul was being pulled from my body. I felt a corresponding surge from it, a wave of something that was not warmth, but a profound vacuum-like cold that flooded into me, the space, the pleasure that had left behind. I gasped, and my eyes flew open. I was in bed, alone. Gray dawn was filtering through the blinds. I was tangled in my sheets, drenched in a cold sweat. My heart was hammering against my ribs, and I had intense physical aftershocks. I could still feel the ghost of cool, smooth hands on my skin. There was a scent of ozone, like something and cold like stone, that lingered in the air for a moment before fading. I sat up, shaking, and looked at the space beside me. The sheets were rumpled, the indent of a head still on the pillow next to mine. I ended up spending that day in a haze of exhaustion and felt restless. It was the most realistic, most physically overwhelming dream of my life. I told myself that's all it was, a stress-induced, hyper-vivid dream. But that night, as I got ready for bed, I hesitated before pulling back the covers. On the sheet, right in the center of my side of the bed, was a single small dark smear. I touched it. It was dry, and when I rubbed it between my fingers, it crumbled to a fine black dust that smelled like cold ash. And that's her story. That's, wow. Okay. So, the reason I wanted to read this, and I hesitated doing this one because it was just like, you really do hesitate with this stuff. So I had an experience where I went to bed one night, and this was when I was really on like this journey, back to the Lord, and I was really just, that's when I had like the miracle healing with my tooth. It was the same timeline, and for whatever reason, so I was trying to like control like sexual urges and hunger and all that kind of stuff, I know. And being more aware of like, lust and the thoughts and things like that we have in our mind. And I remember I went to bed that night. I was laying in the kitchen. We had a couch in the kitchen. And I kept falling asleep in front of the TV a lot. And Matt was working. He was like working late at night and staying up all night. So I would pass out in the kitchen a lot of times on the couch. And the one night I went to bed, and I remember thinking, this is such a weird thing. It's so weird to admit this to you. It's so, like, harsh and so, like, embarrassing, really. It's, like, kind of gross. But I don't know what I thought exactly. I just remember thinking, I had like this thought that I welcomed a demon, or what it would be like maybe to have a demon have, have like an encounter with a sexual demon, like I guess you would call it an incubus, or like the men have the succubuses and the women have the incubuses, but I wasn't thinking of it like in that term. It was more along the line of something like popping into my head of welcoming like an entity or like a spirit to, like have a sexual encounter with one. It was really strange, and I don't know why I thought this. Like, I don't know, it just like kind of crept into my mind in passing as I was falling asleep. And so, and I don't remember whether I like wanted it to come or welcomed it or wondered what it would be like or something along those lines. It was something really like twisted. And I'm sitting here talking about like, the darker side of being human. And so I went to sleep that night, and I remember I woke up, and as I was waking up, see, a lot of the times you remember what's happening. It's called dream state. It's when you're in the middle, you're in between being asleep and waking up. And that's the time when like you hear God the most, and you hear like you'll get messages the most. And like that's your time when you're really like, it's like this ultra awareness that comes over you. And I remember coming out of dream state, and I remember as I was like right in between, right before waking up, I was, having a sexual encounter with an entity. And I could feel it. I could feel everything, and it was really intense, and it was really like incredible. It was like one of the most incredible things I had ever felt. And you could, I'm not going to get into too many details here, but it was just like one of the most amazing encounters, like, sexual experiences like I've ever had. And as I woke up, I was like stunned. I was like just sitting there like absolutely in shock, because I couldn't believe this happened. I couldn't believe that I had had this like thought of welcoming something, and that it actually came, that it actually like, showed up, and actually this happened to me. And I don't ever remember feeling drained, or because I know a lot of times they talk about like how the incubuses drain you, and then eventually like, ultimately they're looking for your demise through draining you of energy and life force. But I didn't have another encounter after that. This was just that one time, and I remember waking up and I was just like stunned and feeling like, something like you just never forget this. And I remember feeling that that this was something that couldn't happen again. That can never happen again. I can never allow that thought to come into my head. I can never welcome anything like that again, because it could turn into something where it's like an incubus, and that could have been an incubus, but it could have just been straight up and I knew it was a demon. I knew when it was happening that it was demonic. And demon, the word demon is really, we all think of like these really gross, disgusting creatures that are all, just nasty and twisted and things like that. Demons are not, dark entities can be absolutely beautiful. They can be absolutely appealing. The fallen angels, they may not have all turned into like these twisted, disgusting creatures. They, I don't think for one moment that Lucifer has changed his look. I think he's still absolutely beautiful. In fact, there's a person that had an encounter where they had a near-death encounter, and they were taken down to hell, and they actually saw him walking among like all the, skeletons and people that were being tortured, and demonic, entities that were all, they were twisted looking. And they said he was absolutely stunning. He was glowing with light, and he was just gorgeous. He was blonde and blue-eyed and just beautiful. And so, you have to remember that, when you have like a demonic encounter, this thing doesn't have to be ugly. Okay, they can be very appealing and very beautiful. And now I'm not saying, what I was dealing with was beautiful, because I was on my stomach. It was actually behind me, and I never saw it. I never got to see it. I have no idea what it looked like. I could just, I could just feel it. And I do have a recollection of seeing something in my mind's eye of the eyes being black. I do remember that, but I don't remember anything else. But I did have a feeling it was kind of creaturey. So anyway, but that was my experience with this. And so when this person sent me this, it really kind of touched home, because I was like, wow, people don't usually get into this because it's very personal, and it's, it is a little bit embarrassing, and it's just kind of, you just feel kind of disgusted, with yourself, and with, you feel disgusted with yourself that you actually could have enjoyed it, and just appalled and shocked and, dirty, and, it's just kind of, it's kind of gross. So, but I'm sure this happens more than not with many people. So, if this is something that you've ever experienced, or, if you want to experience it, I would recommend no. But if you ever have, let me know. Like, send me, you can make, put comments up, or, send me an email, and, let me know. So I have another story. This one was sent to me. It's called Dogman in the Woods of Pennsylvania, as experienced by two young children. And Toby, this is for you, because you keep bugging me for Dogman stories, and I keep letting you down left and right, because I haven't been putting too many things up about Dogman. So this is going out to you, Toby, okay? It was late October in the Allegheny National Forest when it carries a specific chill, a damp, earthy cold that seeps through jackets and into bones. My name is Sam. I was 11 years old, and my sister Chloe was 9. I remember it was a Saturday. Our small town of Warren was quiet, and the woods behind our property were a boundless empire of adventure. We were following the old logging road, a path we knew, as well as the hallway to our own rooms. I led the way as always. I was a sturdy-built kid. I had on a red jacket and a walking stick I had whittled myself. I use walking sticks, that's funny. Chloe trailed behind as always, her attention captured by the treasures of the forest. "Come on, Slowpoke," I would always yell to her. We were almost to the creek. I wanted to see if the water was high that day. The familiar sounds of the woods surrounded us, the crunch of our own footsteps on the dry leaves, the chatter of the forest animals. It was really cool. It was the silence that came first. I stopped, holding up my hand. "Shh." "What?" Chloe whispered, catching up to me. "Listen." We stood still. The squirrels had gone quiet. The wind had died down. The woods were utterly, profoundly silent. It was a vacuum of sound. Then came the smell. It wafted through the still air, a thick, musky odor that made Chloe wrinkle her nose. "Ew, what is that? Did a skunk die?" I shook my head, my brow furrowed. "No, that's like a wet dog, times 1,000. A low branch snapped somewhere to our left. Deep within the thicket of shrubs, both of us jumped. Birds exploded out of trees. Something was in there, something big. We saw a shadow first, a distortion of the dim light filtering through the canopy. Then it moved. It emerged from behind a massive oak tree, about 50 yards away, stepping into a patch of weak sunlight. For a heart-stopping second, I thought it was a bear. Pennsylvania had black bears, and we'd seen one from the car before, but this was wrong. It was on all fours, but its build was all wrong for a bear. Its shoulders were immense and sloped, leading to a powerful, thick neck. Its fur was a shaggy, unkempt mix of gray and brown, matted with leaves and brambles. Its front legs were long and ended not in paws, but in something that looked almost like hands, with dark, thick nails that dug into the ground. It lifted its head to sniff the air, and that's when the true primal fear seized us. The head was canine, Unmistakably, it had tall, pointed ears that swiveled independently, scanning. Its muzzle was long and dark, but the eyes were what froze the blood in our veins. They were a pale, intelligent green, and they held a sharp, predatory awareness that was utterly alien to any dog or wolf we had ever seen. This was no animal we recognized. This was something else. It moved again, and the movement was the most terrifying part. It didn't lope like a wolf or shuffle like a bear. It moved with a strange, disjointed grace, a combination of powerful animal muscle and something almost human. The way its shoulders rolled, it was a nightmare collision of two worlds. Chloe's hand found mine. Her small fingers were icy, and she trembled in fear. She made a tiny choked sound in her throat, a whimper she couldn't suppress. The creature's head snapped towards us. Those green eyes locked directly onto ours. There was no curiosity there, no simple animal assessment. There was a chilling, ancient intelligence. It stared at us for what seemed like forever. A low sound rumbled from its chest, a growl so deep and resonant we felt it in our own ribs more than heard it. It wasn't a warning to stay back. It was a sound of pure menace. It took one step towards us, then another. It wasn't running. It was a deliberate, stalking advance. "Run!" I yelled to my sister. At least I thought I did. It was more likely a barely audible yell. Something inside of me was screaming, but outside it was barely a whisper. But I didn't need to say it twice. We turned and fled, crashing back down the logging road in a blind panic. It seemed as if we were running the world. It seemed as if we were running. The world narrowed to the path ahead of us, I swear. The sound of our own ragged breaths and the pounding of our hearts. I didn't let go of Chloe's hand, half dragging her, urging her on. "Don't look back, just run," I yelled to her. But Chloe did look back. As we scrambled up a small rise, she glanced over her shoulder. The creature was at the edge of the path now. It had risen up, not fully on two legs, but crouched on its haunches and its immense front limbs planted on the ground, its head held high. It was watching us go. It made no move to give chase at full speed. It simply watched, a dark sentinel against the trees, as if it knew its territory had been violated and its presence was warning enough. We didn't stop running until we burst through the tree line of our own backyard, collapsing on the grass, sobbing. Our mother rushed out, alarmed by our terror-stricken faces and heaving chests. Between ragged breaths, we tried to explain. A monster, a dog, but huge, standing up, green glowing eyes. Our parents exchanged a look, a familiar look of adult skepticism. "It was probably just a big coyote, kids," our dad said, putting a comforting hand on my shoulder. "Or a bear. The woods can play tricks on you, especially when it's getting dark. Shadows make things look scary." We were given hot chocolate and told to stay calm and to calm down. The official story became a scary animal encounter, and the subject was slowly dropped. But that night, and for many nights after, both me and Chloe lay awake. We weren't thinking of coyotes or bears. We were thinking of the intelligence in those eyes, the way it moved with that unnatural grace, and the oppressive silence that had fallen before it appeared. We had gone into the woods as children, but we had come out different. We had seen something that didn't fit, something old and secret that the maps had no name for, and we both knew with a certainty that would stay with us for the rest of our lives. That creature hadn't been trying to chase us. It had just been making sure we left. That was a good one. I get quite a bit of messages. I get some emails. A lot of people coming on asking to be on the podcast. A lot of different guests, and they're very fascinating people. And I do intend at some point to interview people again. There's some really good people that have requested interviews. Like I said, I have to figure out how to do all this again. I have to, piece things together, learn how to edit with a whole different programs, and it's gonna take some doing, and I need some time to really concentrate on this, especially when you're interviewing people. I have one I did with Vic. He's just awesome. I just love him. I haven't talked to him in a long time, but we did an interview together, and there is some editing that needs done on it, and I have to figure it out. And so at some point I want to get that episode up here. But like I said, it's a work in progress, guys. Just bear with me. I will get there at some point. I have my oldest son moved home with me, and he's been, going through just rehabilitation, from addiction, and he's been doing really well. And his fiance came with them. It's his son and his fiance and himself and their little boy. He's like 4 months old now, and I just love him. And I mentioned about him earlier. Kayla is his fiance's name, and she was standing at the kitchen sink last night, and she said to me, I had been up in our attic, and I haven't been in our attic in, God, it could have been maybe years. I don't know. It's been a long time. I do not use my attic or my basement. I leave them as, the ventilation areas they were meant for, and I don't want to deal with, with any gross stuff up there like critters or whatever. So I do put traps and things up there, but I stay out of them as much as I possibly can. I just don't want to deal with them, other than to, have to clean them or check on them or whatever. But I thought maybe I disturbed something yesterday, because it was 2 days ago I was up there, and she was standing at the kitchen sink, and she turned around, and I was talking to her. We were standing there talking, and she got this shocked look on her face, and she looked at me and she said, "What was that?" And I looked at her and I said, What did you just see?" And she was looking down the hallway towards the living room, in between my bedroom and the living room, and she said, "I literally just saw like a woman dressed in like a white, like long, either like a, a robe, a gown, something. It was just like all white, walk from, like, look like from your bedroom into the living room." And I said, "Oh yeah," I said, that, I'm used to that. I said, you didn't know that this house was active." And she said, "No." And she said, "Cody never told me that." And I said, "Oh yeah." And I started to proceed to tell her, some things about my life and things I've seen and heard and dealt with, and some things, my kids have, and stories, that I've told you guys on my podcast. And I just said, it's just so normal for me. And I had thought maybe because I had been up in the attic that day that I disturbed something. So it was interesting. But yeah, she saw an entity walk from my bedroom into the living room, dressed in a white robe or gown or something. I don't know if she could really make out what it was dressed in, but it looked like a white dress or gown. So, but yeah, that's what she saw. That was just last night. So that was pretty interesting. And of course, as always, I have to tell you a story about my little bunny. I am an absolute nature lover and animal lover, even though I can't have them in my house because of my allergies. And I have a little bunny that I call Clover. And I was walking through the yard about 2 nights ago taking pictures of the decorations and such, and I was just barreling through the yard very, fast and not very quiet. And I turned on the flashlight, and all of a sudden I looked down, and Clover, my rabbit, she's a wild rabbit, but she was like right, like at arm's length away from me. And I stopped and I stooped down, and I was like, I always say, I talk to her really sweet. I'm always like, I can't talk. I was like, "Clover." And she like just kind of stops and looks at me, and I'm like, "Clover." And she just stood there and looked at me, and she literally hops right to my feet. She hopped right over to me and stood there, and I was like stooping down. I could have just reached down and pet her. And I didn't because of my allergies. So, but I got so, she was right at my feet. And she does this whenever I go for a few days without giving her treats. So I hadn't given her carrots or apples in a few days, and I kind of wait for her to let me know. And it was raining that night. It was like drizzling, but it was starting to let up. And so everything was wet. And I thought, well, maybe she's not really finding something she likes to eat or whatever. So I just kind of chuckled and I said, okay, baby, I'll go get your treats. And I walked into the house and I came back outside, and she was, at that point, she was waiting by the car. And so I went up and I put down some cut up apples and little carrot sticks, and she picks up the apple, one of the pieces, the chunks of one, and she carries it. She carries them around. She carries her pieces around. And it's so cute because I did not know rabbits carried their food, and they do. And so at least she does. And you could tell she's getting her winter coat. Her coat looks so much thicker. And it's all of a sudden she stands up like a little bear, and she's like stretching her neck to look across into my neighbor's yard. They have like properties. Our properties are pretty good distance apart, but over in that direction. And she's stretching her neck to, apparently she heard something. And I just thought how cute she looked. She looked like this little teddy bear standing up on its, on its hind legs. And then she dropped down and started eating again. But it was, oh my gosh, she's just, to have an animal, and I have this with birds and with, chipmunks, and I have it with deer, and I mean, so many animals up here that they come right to me. Even that snake, Gussie, like, I don't know what it is, what I have, if I have some kind of a light around me or something that they recognize as friend or somebody that cares about them. Now, I do feed them, and I know that's a really big part of it. When they see that you start to feed them and care about them, they respond to that. So, but this rabbit is just, I can't believe how sweet and how calm and just how absolutely tame she is with me. So it was pretty neat, but I wanted to tell you, that little story about Clover. So it's kind of heartwarming, and it makes me feel good. So that's the episode for tonight, and I will be working on more. I just wanted to tell you guys happy belated Halloween. It's day after. I meant to do this yesterday, but as I said, I didn't get to it. So it's a belated Halloween episode. And hopefully I will be on. I'm going to try to get another one out soon. I'm not going to give you a date because I don't want to be held to anything. But you guys all take care of yourself. God bless you. And, anyone needing prayer or anything, send them my way. And please pray for me and my family, for the healing of my entire family unit and relationships, and the restoration of just love and, forgiveness, and for our home and our family, and for everybody in our family that's dealing with issues like addiction and just whatever issues they are, health stuff, addiction. Tristan's having a really hard time with his asthma and coughing and stuff like that, and we've got people dealing with recovery from addiction, and everybody's doing well. And but please just continue to pray for our health and finances, any kind of issues anybody's dealing with, safety, protection, all that stuff. And I'll do the same for you guys. So God bless you all, love to you all, and take care of yourself. Talk to you soon.